Welcome to Retire Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Loren Merkle and Clint Huntrods. They're both certified financial fiduciaries, and Loren is also a certified financial planner and a retirement income certified professional. Clint has a PhD. Today we're going to be talking about our RetireSecure Roadmap. We are so excited to share some great retirement information with you, but first I want to address something. There's a phone number on your screen. This phone number will be on your screen throughout today's show. If at any time you want to jot the number down or send a text to that number, we will follow up with some great information about our online Journey to Retirement workshop. So I've gotten that information out of the way. We'll talk more about the workshop, of course, throughout the show, but let's get right to this RetireSecure Roadmap, Loren, because this is a really exciting and fun visual representation of the retirement plans that you help families and individuals build all the time.
And it's these retirement plans that are so important to help that transition from the working years to the retirement years. You've been working for maybe 30, 40 years, and you're thinking about a day when you no longer have to drive to work on a Monday morning, and what are you going to do with all of that time? But then you have to start thinking about, how are you going to actually make this happen? What are you going to do from a Social Security standpoint? What other income sources are you going to be able to turn on, and when, and how much? And what are you going to do with healthcare? And then at 65, Medicare. And then what do you do from a trust and a will standpoint? All these things come into your mind. You start thinking, this is way harder than what I ever had been through before from a financial standpoint and what I ever imagined. And that's why we built the RetireSecure Roadmap. That's why we built a RetireSecure Roadmap for almost all the families and individuals that we work with, because that is the roadmap that's going to help answer all of those questions as you go to and then through retirement.
Yeah, just think about if you were going to take a vacation. You would want to have that plotted out, mapped out. And many people we hear spend a lot of time planning for those vacations. Why wouldn't you do that for your retirement? To make sure that all those different transition points are thought of. And then overall, you're just making sure that everything is organized, put together, and you're going to be able to optimize all of those different decisions that you have as you transition from working into those retirement years.
Yeah, when something's difficult in life, what's better than a guide? What's better than someone who's been through this and help people do it to help you get to and through that journey? So let's take a look at the RetireSecure Roadmap. Here it is. So you'll see there are 6 points of interest on the map. These are also part of the pillars that help people build a RetireSecure Roadmap. So here's what we want to do. Check it out. There they are, John and Sue. They're hopping in their car and they are going to go on this journey. We're going to stop at each one of those points today, tell you why they're such an important part of a comprehensive retirement plan. So first, guys, John and Sue, they stop at lifestyle. Check it out. There's a beach. There's an umbrella. This is the fun part of what you do.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Right.
I'm planning that part. I've been planning that part for a really long time of retirement. But this is an important piece, and this is a little different than what people's experiences is with other financial advisors.
It's probably a surprise to most people who are watching right now that the lifestyle piece would be the first part that we focus on as a part of the RetireSecure Roadmap, but it is the most important. First, it is the stuff that you have been dreaming about probably for some time. When you think about retirement, you want to think about the beaches and the travel and the grandkids and all this fun stuff. You don't want to necessarily think about how are you going to be able to afford that now and later and all the other financial elements. But for us, in order to help you plan financially for all of that lifestyle stuff, we first have to know what you want your lifestyle to look like in retirement. And this is why when we first sit down with the families and individuals that ultimately we end up working with, this is where we start. What do you envision for your retirement? What do you want to do when you no longer have to go to work? How do you want to fill your days? What do you do right now during your free time? What does that look like 5 years down the road? And we just gather as much information as we can, because that tells us then from a financial standpoint, we have to put all the X's and O's together in such an order that it can allow you to afford that type of lifestyle.
Well, and I think what this does, Clint, is it speaks directly to one of the biggest concerns that we hear from people age 57 and older is, I want to live the lifestyle I want. I don't just want to retire and be on a shoestring budget and maybe go out to eat and maybe take a trip. I want to know I can do what I want to do all the way through retirement.
Yeah, and this needs to be customized for every family, because there's some families, we just talked to somebody recently, and they just want to have some peace and quiet. They said that my job is quantifying my work every single day. I just want to be able to do what I want to do on my schedule and just get some quiet and just some more peaceful type of environment. There's some people who want to go do some new hobby or some business that they're going to dive a little bit further into. And some of them have big travel plans. Some of them have smaller travel plans. It's important to have your lifestyle plan thought through, mapped out, and then make sure all those 5 financial components are going to be able to help you accomplish that.
And sometimes, Loren, people go into the thing they've always been dreaming about. What you get to do is sit down, and sometimes in those visits after you've built the RetireSecure Roadmap, they say, Loren, guess what I've been doing with this extra time I have?
It's one of the most rewarding aspects from our chair, Clint, you and I, as far as what we get to do, is we get to live the pre-retirement and retirement phase with the families that we work with. Prime example is the Mr. and Mrs. Dureau. John Dureau wrote a children's book. He is a retired IT manager. So think about an IT manager.
Not a natural transition, typically.
But he's a storyteller, and he loves to tell stories to his kids and his grandkids. And then he decided to write one down in a book, and he got it published. So and he brought this in and shared this with us, and fantastic, because he was talking about it prior to retiring, but he just couldn't find the time. All of a sudden he retires, he's confident with his financial plan, his RetireSecure Roadmap, and that allows him the freedom in his mind and from a time standpoint, a physical standpoint, to be able to sit down and really put pen to paper and fulfill one of his longtime dreams that he wouldn't have been able to do while he was working.
Okay, let's look at our hypothetical couple again. John and Sue, they're back in the car. They've got this lifestyle thing figured out. Now they're moving on. Check it out, guys. That's a bank. And that bank icon on this RetireSecure Roadmap it justifies, or it signifies income, because we know, Clint, they can dream about a lot of things, but they've got to be able to pay for them. That's kind of the next thing you help people develop is a retirement income plan.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we can provide for that lifestyle through consistent income over time. And part of it, we want to make sure that we can do that no matter what the market does. The market's more volatile than ever, it feels. We want to make sure that you're going to be able to get that consistent income over time to be able to deliver on those lifestyle goals that you have. And really that comes down to what are the different revenue sources that you have? Where can we go for that income? How do we optimize the Social Security decisions that are out there in front of you, for maybe your spouse? And then also, do you have a pension? Should you take it lump sum? Should you take it monthly? And then how do we use those retirement assets to be able to consistently deliver any sort of gap that there might be from those guaranteed income sources to what you want your lifestyle to be in retirement?
Loren, I think there's some misconceptions that when you help people develop a retirement income plan, you're just going to say, well, we're just going to peel 4% out of your investable assets for the rest of your life, and that's what it's going to look like. No, it's way more detailed than that.
It's way more detailed. In fact, many people who have done the investments and financial planning themselves while they're working come to us and say, hey, working was pretty easy. We just put money in, we live our lifestyle, but now we're on the doorsteps of retiring. Trying to take money out is way more complicated, and it's really tempting. One of the biggest questions we get is, how much money do we need? How much money do we need to have saved? Well, instead of thinking about income as just this big number, what we need to start thinking about is income more as an outcome, meaning how much money do you need from your income sources to live the lifestyle that you really want to have, because that big number or little number, whatever that number is different for everybody based on the lifestyle and the other resources that you have.
And these income plans aren't static. You don't set them once with a family and say, good luck, I hope this works out all the way through retirement. You reassess this on an annual basis.
Yeah, and really all across your RetireSecure Roadmap, we want to continue. The second that we print it out, it's going to be out of date. We know that life happens, life changes, the market's going to change. So we want to continue to revisit over time and sit down with families and walk through what kind of life changes are happening, what new trips did you not realize you were going to want to take, and how is just income change over time with the different phases of retirement. A lot of families want to spend a little bit more in those early years of retirement, then maybe that's going to trail off a little bit as they don't do as many of those trips over time. And we just want to help families identify, what does that lifestyle look like over time? How does our income change with maybe the phases of life and retirement that a family is going to go to? And then also think about, what's the impact of inflation over time? We don't want to miss that, because that can make a huge impact on what we spend today versus 20 years from now, what it's going to take to live the same lifestyle.
And we're talking about John and Sue today, and people can really get to know John and Sue in our online Journey to Retirement workshop.
In the online Journey to Retirement workshop, we take you through the 6 different points of interest that John and Sue have, talking about their lifestyle. They have some pretty specific goals of things that they're trying to accomplish. John loves to golf, avid golfer. He wants to spend more time on the course. And Sue, she likes to volunteer and be more a part of the community, the civic center, amongst other goals that they have as well. And then we take you through how they build build their income plan, optimizing Social Security. They get an extra $93,000 from Social Security decision A versus ultimately the decision that they make. And that goes a long way to help them with their goals. And you get to see how they decide what decisions they make and the strategies that they implement to really optimize their lifestyle through their income plan.
And you can see how John and Sue do it by texting Journey to 515-305-3311. Then we'll get you started signing up for our Journey to Retirement workshop. But we've got more to talk about when it comes to the RetireSecure Roadmap next. Welcome back to Retiring Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Clint Huntrods and Loren Merkle. And today we're going on a journey. We've got a RetireSecure Roadmap. Here it is. John and Sue, they're in their car. They stopped at Lifestyle. They stopped at Income. And next, that looks like Washington, D.C., guys. This is the tax plan. Why?
They're probably saying, let's steer and avoid that.
That's right. Good
Let's
one.
go somewhere else.
That's a good one. This is not a point of interest, but it's an important point of interest. Why is why is taxes one of the stops on this map?
Well, by the sheer nature of how we have been able to save retirement money over the last 4 to 5 decades, it's all taxable at retirement because it's never been taxed before. Your pre-tax 401k plans, your pre-tax IRAs, you will have a retirement tax bill. The reason that stop is so important is you want to decrease that retirement tax bill. Just simple numbers. Let's say you have $1 million in your IRA you've never paid taxes on before, and you look over the 25-year projected retirement time frame, that retirement tax bill, your retirement tax bill, could be about $500,000. That is significant. And if that is you and you have $1 million you never paid taxes on before, you will have a significant retirement tax bill, but it doesn't have to be half of your starting retirement account. You can decrease that significantly.
Yeah, you have to stop there, but you maybe don't have to pay as much in retirement taxes as you think. But this doesn't just happen by wanting to pay less, Clint. It happens by planning, and planning not just year to year, but planning long term.
Yeah, and let's think about introducing a new type of diversification to your portfolio that maybe you haven't thought of before, which is tax diversification. Now we can start to think about building out that Roth bucket in addition to that pre-tax or tax deferred bucket. Maybe a non-qualified bucket over the course of your retirement is important as well. And then let's not forget how Social Security is taxed. It's different altogether. Up to 85% of your Social Security benefit is taxable. It ultimately depends on what other types of income it is that you are showing. And so let's think about those different tax buckets and how those all work together to be as efficient as possible throughout your retirement journey.
And I'm glad Clint mentioned Roth. That is kind of an advisor term. I know people, most likely you're familiar with it, you've heard it, but the nuts and bolts of what Roth is a little confusing, needs some education for a lot of people. And if you want to drill down into the Roth conversions in the Journey to Retirement workshop, John and Sue, they stop at taxes. They engage in a Roth conversion, and they have a lot more money to spend in retirement because of it.
They're like many people watching the show who have a lot of money in pre-tax accounts. They have to pay taxes on it, but John and Sue were very intentional with their tax strategy, which did include a Roth conversion. And when you engage in a Roth conversion, essentially what you're doing, just like John and Sue did, is you're saying, I would prefer to pay taxes now, even though you don't have to, so you can save taxes later. Now, the hard part is how much taxes should you pay now and what is going to create a tax savings down the road. And that's what we show you through the eyes of John and Sue, their specific Roth conversion strategy and how they save over $100,000 off of their retirement tax bill, all in the online Journey to Retirement workshop.
And this is an eye-opening experience for people to see. And I think what they learn is that you don't have to be a victim. I mean, maybe victim's a little too harsh of a word, but you feel like taxes are something that happens to you. There's rules. I make this much, I have to pay this much. But in retirement, you have more control than you've ever had before over taxes.
And that's where we want to help families explore that. How do we take more control of our tax picture rather than just letting it play out on the IRS's terms, which is not always likely to be in your best interest. And so let's think about being proactive instead of just reactive. And as we think about that visual representation of Washington, we also know this is going to continue to change. And so we're there to help you in any of the changes that are happening on the tax landscape, seeing how does that impact you and your plan, and and what can you do about it to take more control?
Yeah, that's a great reminder that the people in Washington often make the rules about taxes, and sometimes they change them, and it has a really big impact on retirees.
It certainly can. And one of the words that come to us oftentimes is people say they feel helpless. They've always paid taxes. You know, when you're working, you get the W-2 income. There's not a whole lot you can do except for put away in pre-tax retirement accounts, which has created this retirement tax issue. So you feel often helpless, but in retirement, you actually do have more control many times than when you were working. Because if you can create some tax diversification, you can take some income from this bucket, which is taxed differently than the income you take from this bucket and this bucket. And by putting all of that together in your income plan to develop the lifestyle that you want to, the tax plan can really provide security and confidence and really enhance and make the money that you have saved all this time go even further by putting that intentional tax plan together.
Let's get back in the car. John and Sue, they're saying bye-bye to Washington. They're getting back in the car and they're stopping at investments. And again, you go into this in real detail in the Journey to Retirement workshop, which you can sign up for by texting Journey to the phone number that's on your screen. But high level, what do we cover, or what is all included, I should say, in the investment portion of a RetireSecure Roadmap?
Yeah, let's analyze how much risk you're currently taking. Let's think about what that impact of the next market downturn, which is going to happen, it's just a matter of when. On average, we're going to go through a recession every 5 to 6 years. How will your portfolio respond when that happens? And then how can you take steps and implement strategies to be able to better withstand that through a recession-resistant portfolio?
And in addition to that, do you have enough? That's a big question that pre-retirees are really concerned about. How much is enough for you for the lifestyle that you want? And then how do you really protect against the recessions that do happen? On average, we see recessions every 5 to 6 years. And the last Great Recession, 2008, many people can't forget, because what happened in 2008 is you saw your portfolio drop by maybe 50%. And what happens when your portfolio drops by 50% is the market goes back up, which it did in 2009 and it did in 2010 and 2011, but people didn't get back to even for 5, 6, even 7 years, because the $100,000 portfolio that dropped to $50,000, you need a full 100% return just to get back to that 100,000. If the market's down by 50, your account's down by 50%, and the next year it's up by 50%, which by the way is a remarkable year. Your 50,000 grows to 75,000, and you're still 25% down from the overall 100,000 that you started with. And that's why intuitively you know that, and that's why you're a couple years away from retiring thinking you cannot afford to go through another 2008 and lose 30, 40, 50% because it takes so long to get it back to even. In the online Journey to Retirement workshop, we show how John and Sue changed the working style of their portfolio from a risk standpoint and construction standpoint to a recession-resistant portfolio, where now the next recession that we go through, they don't have to worry about that. They can focus on golfing and volunteering and attending civic center plays and all the stuff that they want to do, and leave the stuff that they can't control, like the markets, out of the equation.
We got 2 more stops on the RetireSecure Roadmap next. This is Retiring Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Loren Merkle and Clint Huntrods. It's time to get back in the car. John and Sue have 2 more stops on their RetireSecure Roadmap. Next up is healthcare. And Clint, this is one of the biggest areas of concerns for those planning for retirement.
Yeah, when families are thinking about going away from that employer healthcare, which they know and usually understand fairly well, and start to think about the wide open that they're entering into, a lot of families say, this is outside of making sure I have enough money. This could be their number one concern that they're facing, that they're experiencing, especially if they're trying to do this on their own.
Yeah.
They're starting to research and realizing just how challenging and complicated this is. And they really just start to find that I don't know what to do here, and I'm afraid I'm going to make the wrong decision, which is going to have a negative impact on when I go for healthcare or how much it is that I pay for healthcare.
And part of that is because they've never had so many healthcare options before. Most people have the group plan, which the employer selects, and then there's really 3 to 5 different options amongst that plan. So they really narrow down those options. But when you go to the open market, are you going to use the Affordable Care Act? Are you going to use open market healthcare plan? Or once you turn age 65, all the Medicare options that are available. And with the Medicare especially, there's changes that happen every single year. And in 20 2025 as a prime example, there are significant changes that people need to be aware of, which is why and really for us to be able to build the most effective RetireSecure Roadmap, it has to be a team approach. We have to have specialists on the team in each one of these areas to make sure that we build the best section of that particular plan, which is why Anna Marie Morrow is so important and pivotal with the healthcare planning.
And it's really neat for us to see families that are getting started with us saying, hey, this is my number 1, 2 concern. I'm scared to death of it. To then getting together with Anna Marie and we walk by those conference room visits and they're laughing, they're having a great time. And then you said, she makes it simple, she makes it easy to understand how that customized approach fits for me. And they just have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, and they really like the fact that she is a part of Merkle Retirement Planning. She's not just an outsourced type of person that can come in every once in a while, because most advisors, that's what they tell us is, my advisor said, well, go talk to this person, go talk to that person, where it's all in-house, just down the row, and it's all one-stop shop for them, and they really appreciate that.
And that's important for their plan as well. One thing we haven't mentioned is how all these 6 pillars fit together. The decisions you make from an income or tax planning standpoint could ultimately impact how much it is that you pay for your healthcare premium, which is important to have your retirement planner working side by side with your healthcare plan and your healthcare professional to make sure that you're making decisions that don't have an unintended consequence.
And John and Sue are back in the car. They've got one more stop on their RetireSecure Roadmap, and it's legacy. Why is this such an important stop?
You spend 30 to 40 years saving all of this money, and you want this money to work for you while you're alive, but you also want this money to transition in the most efficient way once you have passed on. And that's exactly what John and Sue wanted to do in the Online Journey to Retirement workshop. They had a meaningful legacy goal. So we talk about what is it like to build a will or update the will in many cases.
Yeah, we recently had a family that they looked and said, our will is 45 years old. Now's a good time to maybe think about, let's update that.
To update. And then people on the peripheral have heard about this thing called a trust. There's many different types of trust. Is a trust appropriate? What should it look like? How does it work with a will? And then in the Online Journey to Retirement workshop, we bring up a strategy that we have called IRA relocation strategy. And we get a lot of feedback about, wow, that's new. Haven't thought about that. How neat is that? But basically what it is, it's a tax planning strategy that works in conjunction with magnifying the legacy that John and Sue leave the 2 kids that they have. And it's something that you can look at as a part of your overall legacy plan if you want to, in addition to what does it make sense? Does it make sense to update the will and then also incorporate a trust and other legacy planning documents?
So today has been a high-level look at the RetireSecure Roadmap, but really to get a really good understanding of this, go to the Online Journey to Retirement workshop. You can text JOURNEY to the number on your screen. Then what happens is we reach back out to you and we help you get signed up. So we'll let you know when the next Journey to Retirement workshops are, and you can sign up for a time and date that works for you, and you'll see all of these strategies play out.
Yeah, and that's one of the big points of feedback that we get from families is now I see what it's like to have a comprehensive retirement plan. I see how those different segments of the plan fit together, and now I can weigh that against what do I currently have? Do I have 1 pillar? Do I have 2 pillars? If I don't have 6, maybe I need to take some steps to build out that more comprehensive plan and ease some of that anxiety and maybe some of those points of concern that families have as they're thinking about the big transition in front of them.
Yeah, and easing anxiety is exactly what a RetireSecure Roadmap does. This is Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching.